Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking, get your questions in. And guys, let's just jump right into it. A lot to talk about, obviously. Texas coming off that loss to Georgia. Controversy. There's a little bit of everything mixed into this game, but curious to get y'all's final thoughts on that 30-15 game.
I think Texas got beat. I mean, that's what, look, nobody, I think very few people thought Texas would win this game going into the year. And guess what? They didn't win it. That doesn't mean there's not things to play for here for the University of Texas as the program moves forward. And it's not to say that the same result will happen again if they played again. Texas learned quite a bit in that matchup, in my opinion. They learned who the studs are at Georgia for sure, and how Steve Sarkisian might try to attack them differently. That all being said, take Georgia out of your brain for a little bit. You got to move on to Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt right now is an upstart program that's playing really, really well. They got a quarterback that is being extremely efficient with the football, both passing and running. And so, look, Texas still has its season ahead of them, and they could win out. And that's what this is going to be about the next 5 weeks of football, starting with Vanderbilt this coming Saturday. Texas has to keep its eye on the prize and keep grounded. They can't let one game beat them twice, in my opinion.
Yeah, so for me, it's I'm going to mention Georgia in a second, but this is a culture game coming up for Steve Sarkisian. The culture's been built. It's been established. This is the first real adversity for this team this year. And it's probably more than the game, and we'll get into that. More than the Georgia game. But this is where, if you have a tight-knit team and a really strong culture, it's got to come through Saturday in Vanderbilt, because now there's no rest. You're going on the road. Vanderbilt hadn't lost at home this year. They beat Virginia Tech and Alabama, and their quarterback, either Diego Pavia or Garrett Nussmeier, is your all-SEC first-team quarterback. Who would have had that going into the year? Now, one of those two guys right now is the guy. It's not Carson Beck, the turnover machine. It's not Quinn. It's not Jackson Dart. It's not Jalen Milroe. It's one of those two guys I mentioned. And you know, they run the spread option. I think it's a good matchup for Texas. But I'll say this about the Georgia game. Last thing, and if you've noticed, yes, the shades are off. They're on the collar now. We'll see if they ever get back. If they ever get put back on over my eyes, we'll see. Long season left. But I'll say this about the Georgia game. This is why that game, and I said it going into the game, I think the Texas fans are going to look at that field and say, whoa, those guys are really talented. And that was going to be the first game this year where Texas talent was neutralized or the other opponent had more. And if you look at that Georgia front seven defensively, that's why recruiting in the Southeast region on defense is imperative and important. All those guys were from Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, those states. All their front seven that played.
Hey, we're going to talk a little bit more about Quinn Ewers today, and what the situation is at quarterback and maybe where Texas is going there. We'll talk a little bit about that with Brian Irwin, the former high school coach, two-time state champion. He's joining us here in about 5 minutes or so. Also, guys, we need to talk about the fans on Saturday night and what University of officials decided to do in light of the happenings there. I want to go over that and talk and point out, quite frankly, a little bit of the sanctimony of Georgia coach Kirby Smart in the post-game show. I thought that was a little tacky and just basically him trying to paint himself in this, basking glow of light, when in reality his program has been nothing short of, an arrest. It's been like an arrest market there. I don't know how else to say it. But first, we want to say this to our sponsor. Each and every Monday morning live stream and Coffee and Football brought to you by our friend John Donovan. John's a certified financial planner who has spent more than 30 years providing investment, retirement, insurance, and estate planning services and solutions to Longhorn families and friends across the nation. like so many of the OTF members at the Georgia game, John took the loss hard, but he's still pumped, heading to Nashville for the Longhorns game this Saturday, and looks forward to tailgating with all the OTF folks there who will be making that trip. John wants to offer a free 90-minute consultation to all OTF fans to explore how Longhorn Wealth can help you maximize your wealth, minimize your taxes, and secure your legacy. Simply call John and his team at Longhorn Wealth, 972-707-4900, or go online at longhornwealth.net to schedule your free consultation today. John says hook 'em to everybody out there.
All right, Bobby. And as you said, we do have Coach Brian Irwin joining us here shortly. But before we get into that, let's talk about Georgia a little bit more there, especially the bottle throwing incident. And as you said, some of Kirby Smart's comments. I'm going to let you take the lead on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the university officials, Kevin Eltife, Jay Hartzell, and Chris Del Conte issued a statement yesterday, which I think is great. Look, they took it on the chin and played it down the middle and said, we don't appreciate this conduct. While we deeply appreciate the passion and loyalty of our fan base at the University of Texas, we do not condone the unsportsmanlike conduct that was exhibited by some individuals throwing objects onto the field during last night's game, and sincerely apologize to the University of Georgia, its players, coaches, and fans, as well as the Southeastern Conference and officiating crew. This type of behavior will not be tolerated. That's all well and good. That's what University of Texas officials should say. Stand up and say it's wrong and try to fix it going forward if it were to ever happen again. They also were fined $250,000 from the SEC for that. Texas will clearly pay that. They're not going to sit there and argue about that kind of stuff. But what I want to point out is this. My issue isn't that. Things like this happen in college football away. I want you to show this. I mean, here's Georgia fans 2 years ago throwing stuff on the field. Kirby Smart acts like his fans are perfect. Okay? Georgia fans during the SEC championship throwing stuff on the field after Alabama got a call that they didn't like. Okay? You tell me. All right. My point being, and then Kirby Smart acts like he's all prim and proper. And I got to be honest. How many arrests, Jerry?
Well, yeah.
Since they caused a death of a fellow student 2 years ago?
That was my point with all this. I mean, Kirby doesn't need to sound all sanctimonious. He's had 12 players arrested for reckless driving or DUI since that accident. 12 since the accident.
Killed someone.
Yeah. Clean up your program.
Yeah, before you start throwing stones in a glass house, buddy. Yeah, I mean, look, he's a good coach. Give him credit, all the credit in the world for being a coach.
No doubt.
But Georgia fans acting sanctimonious like they're perfect or Texas tried to steal something from them is ridiculous. All right. I've said my piece. You can't sit there and talk about Texas fans negatively, which they deserve. I mean, frankly, they deserve it. I was ashamed of it a little bit. Thought it was Bush League at best. Texas admonished their fans appropriately, going to take steps to improve it. But don't act like you haven't been to the prom before, buddy.
Exactly.
You're the one that has the Atlanta Journal-Constitution trying to run articles on your program right now and the dysfunction within it. 12 DUI or vehicular arrests in the last 2 years. Give me a break. Anyways, let's talk more about football. How about
What's the Vanderbilt line?
Well, let's bring in Coach Brian Irwin. How about that?
Yeah, let's do it, Coach. How you doing, buddy?
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Oh, well, we were taking Kirby Smart to task a little bit, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Some of the things he said after the game, they were a little bit salty, but hey, congratulations to them. They had the better night. They were better prepared, and at the end of the day, I thought they had a bit better edge about them. They had a better edge. They had one loss. Everybody picked against them, and we didn't quite have the edge that they had. And when now we're in a position to get that edge back, and see what we can do with it.
Brian, a lot of what we wanted to talk about today with you, because you pay particular attention to the quarterback room and what's going on with Quinn Ewers. We haven't had a chance yet to talk about it this morning with folks, but I wrote an article on Texas Football saying, like, look, Quinn, it's either now or never.
Yeah.
You got pulled in the second quarter of the Georgia game because you looked like a deer in headlights. It happens, even to the best quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It happens. My question to you, Brian, is where does Texas go from here as a coach, and what would you be looking at from that standpoint?
You know, it's tough for us because we're not in that meeting room, we're not in the team room, we're not in the huddle, we're not part of those hundreds and thousands of reps that they're getting on the practice field. But I want to say this first: I thought our offensive linemen took a beating. And hold on when I say that. I thought they got beat up a little bit by the analysts and the announcers and everybody. I didn't think our offensive line played near as bad as what everybody's saying. You know, they run a corner blitz off the edge unblocked.
Right.
That's not the offensive line.
Correct.
We full slide protect. We bring Gunnar Helm across the formation to block Walker one-on-one. That's not the offensive line's fault.
No.
These are schematic things we can fix. I thought, you know, the one sack that Kelvin Banks gave up, that was Quinn's fault. I'm going back to your deal, Bobby. Yes, Cameron Williams gave up a couple, especially Arch's fumble. But we can help him, and we've got to help him, especially when it's true passing situations. They're pinning their ears back. We've got to use a back to chip to help him a little bit. I would never help Kelvin Banks. You're on your own. You can handle anybody you got, and he did fine. That sack he gave up was Quinn's fault. So I thought our offensive line, after going back and really looking at it, I thought they played solid. They played well enough to win, in my opinion. They protected the quarterback well enough to win the game. But when you're leaving corner, that corner blitz, that's Quinn's. That's Quinn's guy. And the full slide protection and blocking with the tight end against their best defensive player, it can't happen.
Coach, that's what happened last year when Quinn got hurt against Houston.
Yeah.
Was JT Sanders' same play against Nelson Caesar got blown up.
Yeah.
That's always on a right-handed quarterback's blind side.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. To me, we got to slide it to that guy. You got to slide your protection to the best player, and then you can bring your tight end back the opposite way against their weaker defensive player. So there's some schematic things we've got to clean up in protection. You know, when we slide protect and then we wrap a guard around, that's different because now we've got a 320-pound guy blocking Walker and got a chance to get in the middle of him. So I think some protection things got to be cleaned up. Our offensive line did not play. They played well enough to win the game, in my opinion.
They actually opened up some running lanes in that game as well.
They did, and that I'm going to answer Bobby's question because the second half of my answer is we've got to be able to run. We got to commit to running the football and starting the games out and being kind of tricky and establishing the passing game to set up the run or so. We've got to set the mentality. We did it in the second half. We lined up and we ran the football in the second half and then started creating some rhythm, started creating some play action passing stuff and really played overall pretty well offensively. We moved the ball down the field, one time didn't score, a couple times didn't score. So we moved the ball really well. To answer your question, Bobby, I've had this issue obviously for a while now with Quinn. I don't know. I've had this issue for a while. He's not stepping up. He's not stepping up into the pocket. His gap escapes are just not what they're supposed to be. He'll scramble out to the right when he doesn't need to go anywhere. The pocket's completely clean. The rushing three, all he's got to do is stand there. Stand there. Stand there. Somebody's going to come open. Well, they're rushing three, and he's not getting any pressure. And all of a sudden, the clock goes off in his head. And he makes a movement hard to his left. And all of a sudden, they pick up a sack on him when they're rushing three. So I'm gonna say that he's struggling big time with pocket presence. Whatever it is, if it's an injury, whether it's mechanics, whether it's courage, I don't know. But what I do know is the way he's executing at the quarterback position is not good. It's not good. And I'm not sure how much better it's going to get, because these things have got to be being coached hard during practice for him to do, some of those things. The elephant in the room, we got the other guy, Arch. I thought he looked good. He's in the pocket. He steps up in the pocket. He can make plays off schedule with his feet. The one fumble that he had, that was not his fault. That was a short edge rush, coming off the edge and got beaten Cameron Williams. So what I want to see is leadership. If he's the leader, like you talked about, Bobby, if he is the leader of the team and he is the quarterback, be that guy. But I never seen him talking to guys. I never seen him, getting after somebody's butt. I never seen him going on the bench, being that leader, being that fire and brimstone guy. When we're not playing well, we're not executing, go get after their butt, and let's. Some of it's going to have to be by action, but some of it's got to be verbal too. And I'm not seeing enough verbal leadership. So the mechanics, the leadership is what it is, but the proof's in the pudding. I mean, we're breaking down offensively because of the quarterback position. It's not the wide receivers. It's not the tight end. It's not the offensive line. We are breaking down because of the quarterback position. And we can help him. Yes, we can help him with schemes. We can help him with, let's come out and let's run the football like we did in the second half. Let's come out and script in runs 50% of the time. Let's go ahead and get the bar fight going. Let's get the bar fight going in the first drive, in the first quarter, instead of waiting to the second half to get into the bar fight. That's what I like to see done. Let's get it on. One of the strengths of our football team is our offensive line. They are good. They can run block. They can pass block. They can put us in position to be successful. And that marries to our defense. We have a very, very, very good defense. Are we great? I don't know. But I know we're very good. And we have a championship caliber defense that we can win a championship with this defense. We have to marry what we're doing on offense to that defense. Let's run the football. Let's throw the play action pass. Let's throw some RPOs, and let's lean on our offensive line. We've got to be able to lean on our offensive line. We've got to be able to lean on our tight end earlier. We didn't go to Gunner enough early in the game. Gunner Helm is probably overall our best weapon. He is unstoppable. And he catches 4 of his 5 or 6 passes in the fourth quarter, So I don't know that I answered your question about Quinn. It's tough. It's tough for me to talk about these things. It's tough for me to truly answer it because I'm not there, and it's not fair for me to say Sark ought to do this or that because I'm not in that room. I don't know how he behaves in that room. I don't know how he behaves in practice. I don't know what he's doing in practice and from an execution standpoint. But what I'm seeing on Saturday, he is not doing in the pocket what he needs to do to be a championship caliber quarterback. We're not going to win a championship with this type of quarterback play that we've had the last couple of weeks. My mind goes back to the interception we threw against it was the night he got hurt. The night he got hurt, right? UTSA. And bad interception, before he got hurt. And so I'm concerned. Yeah, I'm concerned. But Bobby, I've been concerned. I mean, you know that. Me and you've talked. And so,
Coach, I want to ask you this because one of the things because I want you to talk about the difference from your eyes. It's one thing to be a cool, calm, and collected customer, right, at the quarterback position. But your feet still have to be reactive. everything can't be cool and calm all the time. Your feet have to be on fire and reactive, and your body has to react with quickness to things moving really quickly in your peripheral, trying to get you to the ground. That, to me, that's one of the things I think is Quinn's really missing, is the reactive quickness with his feet to things that are happening in his peripheral.
We always said your feet have to beat your hands. You've got to play the quarterback position with your feet, and your feet have to beat your hands. When you throw the football, it's not about your fast hands and your quick release. It's your feet set the platform for everything. How quickly you move your feet, how quickly you adjust your feet, how quickly you adjust your platform, how quickly you stick that back foot in the ground and go. It's time to get out. It's time to go and go straight ahead and go get us 5 or 6 yards or 12 yards or whatever. Being able to make plays off schedule. Their quarterback made a couple off schedule, and he's just athletic enough that it hurt us a little bit. Arch has the same ability. I think quarterbacks have to be able to make plays off schedule. I mean, Patrick Mahomes. I mean, my gosh, you watch him. Now not everybody's going to have a Patrick Mahomes, but you still got to have enough athleticism at the quarterback position to make some plays off schedule. So yes, I think you're right on, Jerry. Feet have got to beat your hands.
The problem with the feet too, and this is something I want to add, is I'm worried about him minimizing the negatives. There are going to be negative plays at quarterback. You're going to take a sack. You're going to have to get the ball out early on a third down when you don't want to. Mm-hmm. But minimize those plays. I mean, minimize the negatives. That's part of actually leading the team, is being able to get your team out of bad situations and into better ones. So there are a number of issues, and I wrote that this morning. I think that the problem I'm having right now, Brian, and I think it's what you described, it's not any one thing with Quinn. It's a multitude of things. It's not stepping into the pocket. It's throwing off his back foot. It's not seeing the game. It's not getting the ball out quickly when he needs to get out quickly. It's escaping when he doesn't need to escape. It's not, that is not one thing. That is a list of things. And that's the problem. And frankly, I didn't think he had these problems against Michigan. So I don't know. Is it the injury? I don't know, but it's causing some concern, because I think he's on the precipice of losing his starting role. I don't know if he comes out and plays like this first quarter, second quarter against Vandy, and Sark doesn't go to Arch. Sark's doing a disservice to the team. So it's got to be a meritocracy.
It's the biggest quarter and half in Quinn's Texas career coming up Saturday.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And the tough thing about it is you compare, the Michigan performance versus a couple of Oklahoma, Georgia, but Michigan doesn't pose the threat, the speed, the pressure. You're talking just this much more speed, just this much more pressure, just this much more heat, and then all of a sudden everything kind of breaks down. So, he could have a great first quarter. He could have a great game against Vandy. Vandy, is not able to put the pressure on him. It doesn't mean we fixed anything, because the heat's coming. We know we've got some more guys coming down the road that can play defense, and so I want to see leadership out of the position, verbal leadership, behavioral leadership. I want to see guys stepping up, making plays. At the end of the day, the one that really bothers me probably the most was the last one, and that's the one where they're rushing 6, they're heating us up, and Quinn's big time off his back foot, makes it throw short, and Wingo has to kind of make a funky adjustment to catch the ball. That's one where Quinn has got to step up, step into it, take one on the chin, hit Wingo in the chest, and Wingo gets the first down right there if he just pops him with it. But because he's on his back foot, the ball's kind of fluttering, it comes up short, and Wingo has to make the adjustment. So that's the epitome of the game, where it's time to step up, take one on the chin for your team so you can move the chains, because you still got a chance. You still got a fighting chance at that point in the game.
Brian, thank you so much for your time, buddy. Appreciate you. You lay it out there really, really well for folks, and appreciate you very much. And I know here's the one thing I want to say about Brian. Nobody and everybody here, whether it's me, Jerry, or Blake, nobody here is rooting for Quinn more than any of us three. Nobody in here will root for the quarterback at the University of Texas more. This is about just honest critique. And and I think you laid it out there really well in a way that everybody could understand. You're hoping for the best, right? It's not. We're not trying to talk down about anybody. So I
mean, look, to that point, if Quinn doesn't play dramatically better, and he should play better against Vanderbilt, they can't rush. They can't dominate you with a front seven like that. Nobody else can on Texas schedule. There's some good fronts, but not linebackers behind it that are a first rounder like Jalen Walker. But this is a scenario where he should rebound and play really well against Vanderbilt. It's intestinal fortitude. It's not as talented of an opponent in the front seven. Their linebackers are good player, but I'm talking entire front seven. This is where you should rebound and play really well. If you come out and don't play well, there's a big issue. Because this is it. This is where you should come out and play well next week. You've had a couple of bad games in a row. The intestinal fortitude, got to go do it. I've got to go be the guy for my team. And you're playing a team that isn't lining up with Georgia's got defensive players.
Mm-hmm.
This is when you should perform at a higher level. And if it's still not there Saturday in the first quarter, first half, it's an issue for this team.
Yep. Totally agree.
Brian, thank you so much, buddy. You be good, dude.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. I'll see you tomorrow for lunch with the coach.
All right. Hook 'em.
All right. Yeah. Have a good one. Good stuff from Brian Irwin, in my opinion. That's the kind of analysis we need to hear. And the reason I say that is because it's not pointed in negative and mean. It's actual, this is why, this is what I see. This is what needs to happen differently. So it can be constructive at the same time, right? So I appreciate Brian joining us this morning, taking time out of his day to do that with us. Blake, what else we got to talk about a little bit today? I know we got some recruiting news, right?
We do. We also need to take a look at the upcoming Vanderbilt game. So let's actually start there, and then we'll circle back to recruiting, guys. And I'm going to put this up real quick. In some books, Texas opened as a 17-point favorite, and some they opened as a 19-point favorite, currently at 17.5, however. And then, Bobby, your favorite thing, ESPN Analytics gives Texas a 90.6 chance to win this game. But curious to get y'all's thoughts. Is 17 points too high?
I mean, look, Vanderbilt, it's not too high off talent. Texas is a much more talented team. Vanderbilt does not have the horses that Georgia does in their front seven. We can't stress that enough. But Vanderbilt's 4-0 at home. They started the year off beating Virginia Tech in overtime. And at the time, right now, what does that win look like? I don't know. But Vanderbilt wouldn't have won that game the last few years. And then it was nobody's, Alcorn State, right? Then they beat Alabama, obviously. And then they've had Ball State, which, the crazy thing, I jokingly said that Clark Lee's got the toughest job of all. He's got to keep his team up for Ball State because they're looking ahead to Texas. That's how much better Vanderbilt's playing these days. But Diego Pavia is maybe the first team All-SEC quarterback right now. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions at home. 11 touchdowns, 1 interception on the season. Leads the team in rushing. But I think it's a really good matchup for Texas. At the same time, I think it's a fast surface. Texas is going to look fast on that surface. And I think Vanderbilt's catching Texas at the wrong time. Similar to Bobby, Kirby challenged his guys' manhood. It's us against the world. It was John Calipari textbook stuff. What Kirby was probably doing his team leading up to the Texas game. Now Sark's in that position. All right. We got physically beat Saturday. Now we're going on the road against the team that beat Alabama and beat Virginia Tech and won at Kentucky. This isn't the Vanderbilt of 3 years ago. How are we going to respond? Because now people are questioning if we're tough enough. Bad spot for Vanderbilt, in my opinion.
Tough enough. It may be a bad spot for Vanderbilt, but Texas better execute.
Mm-hmm.
That's my problem. I didn't think Texas didn't look like they could execute. I mean, there were times, I mean, Jaden Blue had a decent night, and then in the third quarter, he goes and short arms the ball in the flat that would have kept the drive going. I mean, there are little things going on at Texas right now that there's some little chinks in the armor I don't like to see that are beyond just Quinn, by the way. So we'll see what all this means. I do want to point out the positive in that game. I thought the defense played really well. Brian mentioned that you can win a championship with this defense. I agree. 3 turnovers, really good. This is going to be the question, whether or not Anthony Hill, Colin Simmons, and those guys and their speed can really affect Diego Pavia.
Yeah,
that's what Texas has that may negate some of Diego Pavia. But to give you an example of, and we learned this last night, Pro Football Focus ranks quarterbacks, all the quarterbacks in the country, 317 of them, by the way. Quinn Ewers right now is ranked number 230, according to Pro Football Focus. 230. Diego Pavia is ranked number 16. That's how much this Vanderbilt offense relies on him and how good of a season he is having. Big gap at quarterback, which you wouldn't have thought coming into the season. Pavia is a flat-out winner. He won in New Mexico State, Jerry. Jesus.
Yeah. Playmaker.
So my point in all of this, I guess, is Texas needs to, yes, it's coming at a good time for Texas in some ways. In other ways, if this Texas team continues to execute poorly, it could be at the exact wrong time, because this is certainly a winnable game for Texas. They should win, but could be the wrong time too. It depends on how these players react to the loss. Don't let 2 losses, or don't let 1 loss become 2. And yeah, I mean, is 17.5 the right number? I don't know. I really don't know. Good point here from Travis, from T Outlaw. We needed a piece of humble pie. Let's get motivated for the rest of the schedule. I think that's what you're talking about, Jerry, is getting the guys ready to go and getting after it. So
look, I mean, this weekend, how many SEC teams are undefeated still on the season, right? You're going to lose in this conference. If people think it's rough now, just wait. Wait until it expands more and you have 2 super conferences. I mean, the days of being undefeated are very, very difficult. Very, very difficult, because I'm here to tell you, as good as Florida, as good as Georgia looked in that game Saturday night, they didn't execute on offense either. And if they have that level game against Ole Miss or against Tennessee, they could lose another game. That's the crazy thing about Saturday night, was Georgia offensively dropped multiple passes, like 6 or 7. They dropped 3 or 4 on third downs. Carson Beck was bad.
3 interceptions.
3 interceptions on the road. It's not like they played a high-level game offensively. If they do that, if they replicate that again, there's a chance they may lose another game.
Texas, that win was there for the taking for Texas.
Yeah.
And the offense spit the bit.
But here's the thing. Texas, I think Vanderbilt's catching Texas at the wrong time, but I think Diego Pavia, they believe, and when a team believes, they're dangerous.
Yep.
They're dangerous. That's why it's imperative that Quinn plays well in the first quarter and the first half of this game. Because if he doesn't, and this thing's could go either way, you're facing a team at home that believes, and they already beat Alabama at home. And I don't care where Alabama's at now. Just go think back to Vanderbilt beating Alabama after Alabama beat Georgia. So this is a team that believes. They went on the road and followed up their win over Bama. They won at Kentucky. And while Kentucky is not good this year, when's the last time? I mean, that's a team that believes in what they're doing. So you have to come out early and take control of a game on the road against a team that believes. You got to take their belief away early.
Better take care of the ball, too, because you cannot afford turnovers. That got Alabama in trouble. All right, before we go forward, I want to say thank you, and we're going to take a bunch of super chats and chat questions and talk whatever you guys want to talk about the rest of the morning. Appreciate you guys joining us. We need to say thank you to one of our sponsors. That is the Carrot Concierge. Are you looking for the right gift for the woman in your life? Make sure you check out thecarrotconcierge.com. Jody Reynolds is a personal jeweler. She is the Carrot Concierge. Right there with an office in Westlake, Jody focuses on helping men purchase the special gift for the woman in your life. You can use the QR code on the screen to see even more, or visit her on Instagram or her website, thecarrotconcierge.com. Jody prides herself in providing personal service, taking the extra steps needed to make sure your lady gets exactly what she wants. And because she doesn't have the overhead of a true storefront, she often gets higher quality inventory at lower prices, as much as 30% less. If you're looking for something special for a birthday or an anniversary, and with Christmas right around the corner, Jody has a variety of tennis bracelets, rings, necklaces, and more. All beautiful jewelry, all personalized for you and yours. And remember, often at a much lower price. Check out thecarrotconcierge.com. Visit her website or give her a call or text and take care of that special someone in your life. Thank you, Jody, for your sponsorship.
All right, guys. Well, we do have lots of questions, lots of super chats. Of course, we got a lot more to talk about as well, but let's jump into some of these supers here. Max, so we appreciate it. He says, I've been Quinn as our guy the whole time, but that could have been a 6 turnover game for number 3. It's not just pocket issues. Arch's legs might be the only thing that could have kept a pass rush like that in check.
That's what Brian said too. I agree with you. I thought, and Jerry and I talked about it. Rod and I talked about it with Jerry as well, and Brian Robeson. He threw some balls that should have been picked, period, full stop. Isaiah Bond had to interfere, and it wasn't called on him, had to interfere to stop one from being a punt interception, basically. I mean, there were multiple balls. I mean, it's a bad performance and a bad time for Quinn.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about that game in general is Carson Beck could have thrown 5 too. I mean, it was not high-level quarterback play in that game.
That's what I'm saying. It was there for that game was there for the taking.
Yep.
And Texas didn't do it. Texas got, I mean, Carson Beck threw 3 interceptions, and he outplayed Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
Right?
Very true. All right, Jason, thank you for your super chat. He says, as good of a recruiter as Sark is, there's a difference between the top 1 or 2 class versus a top 5-ish class. Until we get to that level, we are at a disadvantage against Georgia, Ohio State, etc.
Yes and no.
I don't agree with Ohio State. I'll just put it that way. Well, they don't get these guys on defense like this.
Well, yes and no. Michigan won a national championship last year, and no matter what you think of their scouting department, it was really good. That was a couple of top 5 classes and a 10th ranked class and a 12th ranked class, and good use in the portal and player development. So I don't agree all the way with that, but what I do agree, but what I will say is Georgia, like when Clemson had their run and Nick Saban's run, when you come up against that team that has that front 4 and good linebackers behind their front or 3-man front, whatever it's not. And this is where I caution the people that are jumping off the ledge about Texas offensively, because here's the reality for me. Georgia's front, all those guys will be drafted on some level. But what teams can't go behind, like A&M has a really good defensive front, but they don't have Jalen Walker behind it and 3 other linebackers who are going to be 2nd or 3rd round picks. I mean, that's the difference. The best player on the field Saturday night was Jalen Walker. He wasn't a D lineman. He was a linebacker. Now, they brought him off the edge. And he may be a Pro Bowl player one day. He's a tremendous football player. But that's the difference. But from a recruiting standpoint, I want to mention this. All the reviews that we've gotten are all incredibly positive. I think the one thing I always say about recruiting is the kids don't live play by play, possession by possession, quarter, half, win-loss like a fan base does. And that goes for any team. Texas put a unbelievable product out for recruits. And I'm not saying offensively. I'm just saying the product as a whole. If anybody that was around the University of Texas Saturday They know what I'm talking about. It was incredible. Everything around the stadium, before the game, you get into the game, the product that Texas is putting on the court, on the field, from an all-encompassing perspective, it's as good as there is in college football. And here's a different way kids look at this versus fans. A couple of defensive players have been like, hey, man, Texas is really good on defense. Got to play better on offense, but I can see myself playing on that defense. I can see myself doing what Anthony Hill does. Now, I think recruiting went really well for Texas this weekend as a whole. If you want to point to a couple of things where you come out of a game like this, and this is where the win or loss matters, is, hey, Kirby, Georgia's recruiting some of those same players. And so I think recruiting as a whole, really positive from that game, really positive. Now, when you go into the Southeast and you're battling for these guys, who do you have to beat? If you're going into Georgia and you're going after Tyler Atkinson or Justice Terry, and I can keep naming names, the guys that Georgia really wants, you have to beat them for them. And Kirby still got scoreboard. Bottom line.
Yeah. I just can't. Look, I get all of the recruiting stuff here right now. And I do think that it's important, and I don't think that Texas hurt itself with
not at all.
Myron Charles or any of these guys. We need to see if there's any other ramifications here. Texas had several players on campus committed to other schools. Cortland Guillory was there, the defensive back out of the Klein area that's committed to OU. Chase Sims, the defensive lineman committed to A&M, was there. Kelshawn Johnson, wide receiver out of Hitchcock. Malcolm Simpson, defensive lineman out of Hitchcock, committed to A&M and Nebraska, respectively. Let's see what happens and shakes out over the next, 24, 48 hours.
Champ Bailey 3, that was the point I was making earlier. It's no. I think if you're in a head-to-head against Georgia, well, on 2 or 3 guys, but you also got to remember NIL is part of this. So the one thing I say about that is, if you just go look at the guys that Georgia thinks they have to have from in their state, think about how many of those guys they haven't lost in the last few years. Okay. So, but you got to go compete in recruiting, but as a whole, no, absolutely not. I thought it was a really strong, all encompassing weekend for Texas. But the key for me, and this has always been the key for me, and I said it last year after Oklahoma, you go on and have a really good season. And for me, Texas makes the playoffs this year. That's the key. Get in the playoffs this year. I think people underestimate what that's going to do in recruiting for future classes. That you're be in the playoffs last year, you get back this year into the 12-team playoff, the first 12-team playoff, the hoopla that's coming with all of this from a recruiting perspective. You're on track. You're ascending as a program. There's going to be bumps in the road. And that game showed last night or Saturday night. I think even the fans that were there, the Texas fans, like, oh yeah, we need some of those guys. We need a few more of those level guys.
No doubt.
And that's part of the build. You got to get them.
Yeah, no doubt. They do need more because they had 2 or 3 guys that looked like Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill. Bottom line. And maybe some that look better than them. Jalen Walker looks as good as any player in the country defensively. Special player. That's the number 11 that literally chased everybody everywhere all night.
Yeah.
Great player. Great player.
We're going to jump to some more of these super chats, fellas. This one here from Maddie M. Thank you, Maddie. And Maddie says, good morning and thanks for all your hard work. I enjoy On Texas Football every day. It's a huge week for the team culture. Leaders need to step up. I am most concerned about Quinn's demeanor. He looks shell-shocked. Any behind-the-scenes info on why?
I have to think that some of it is injury-related. He whether it's the oblique or the throwing hand. Jerry and I talked about this too. When he played against UTSA. He hit his thumb on the back of the helmet of a UTSA player on a follow through where he actually did follow through the right way. You know what I mean?
Touchdown pass.
And ever since then, it almost feels like he's not stepping in because he's worried about the follow through of the hand and or the oblique. I don't know which one it is. But if I'm guessing, I think it's that experience, that negative experience, and or injury that is causing some of this. The problem I have, it's not causing all of it. Escaping the wrong way, not stepping up in the pocket at all. Those are bigger issues. Not reading a out route. I mean, Vivek is mentioning in the chat, Texans O-line gave up 28 pressures. Texans O-line didn't give up 28 pressures. Tight end gave up 1. Quinn didn't see a corner blitz. He's responsible for that. Running back gave up 1 or 2. I mean, the offense, Texas played well enough at times to win the football game. They only gave up 30 points, of which 17 came on turnovers. This was going to be a tighter game, and Texas didn't get enough done on offense. So I don't know exactly what's going on with Quinn, guys, but I know that he did not have a positive impact on Saturday's outcome. And that's why Steve Sarkisian went to Arch Manning. Something's not right there. There's so many things. I don't know that you just turn a switch and all of a sudden become Michigan Quinn again. Something's got to change. A little bit. He's got to play with a little more fearlessness for sure. That is one thing does not play. He's not playing with fearlessness, Jerry. He's playing timid.
Yeah, can't play off your back foot in this game.
Yes,
not at a high level. I mean, look, and people don't bring up Brett Favre and Dan Marino and Pat. Those are all-time great players. It's hard to do, and that's why I call it feet on fire. But his feet have to be quicker. He has to react. If he's going to play at a high level, he's got the thing. He has to react to things around him with more purpose and quickness with his feet. Because if his feet don't react to it, it does not matter what his eyes see in a game. Will not matter if your feet don't react.
You can't be scared that you're going to hit your thumb on somebody's helmet when you step up. You can't be scared that you're going to take one on the chin. Prepare for it, but don't sit there and cower under it.
But here's the great thing about this game. He's got a chance Saturday in Nashville to go out and say, all right, guys, I got y'all this week. This is my job. And I'm going to go out and play a really good game. And we're going to get this thing back on track offensively. And I'm going to get back on track. If he does it, awesome. If he doesn't, issue.
Our next super chat's from Edmund Lee. Edmund, we appreciate it as always. And he says 6-1, still in the hunt for playoff slot if we regroup, refocus, and get it together for Vandy now. One day at a time. I hope recruits still stay interested. I see on Texas football is it over 62,000 subscribers. That's awesome. All team leaders need to step up now. Hook them. Thank you.
No doubt. Yeah, no, I think, look, man, Texas was in the playoff last year. They're ranked in the top 10. They go out and handle their business. I mean, you make the college football playoff as a blue blood. How many blue bloods are going to make the college football playoff this year? So that's the thing. We talk about the bad when the bad hits because you have to. Otherwise, we're lying to 3,000 people that are watching this right now, whether YouTube or social media. But here's the reality. Texas just needs to go get back to the playoff. They just play well, get to the playoff. I mean, that's the whole key here for me is continue building. Continue building. And if they do that, they're fine. Recruiting, the kids, I'm just telling you, the recruiting part is going very well. Because the kids, when you get kids and families on campus, they see Austin, they see everything going on, they see what the product that the University of Texas has and the capabilities they have. Recruiting's going well. Now, if you're head-to-head against Georgia on a couple of guys in the Southeast, that road might have got a little tougher after Saturday because scoreboard matters, especially when that program's been the best in college football on a whole the last 3 years. But look, the recruiting's going really well.
I want to add this real quick, if you don't mind. and say this. You're talking about team leaders, Edmund, stepping up. He's right. And a couple of those team leaders did step up. Baron Sherrell's dad was posting in the chat earlier.
Absolutely great.
And Baron stepped up. Alfred Collins stepped up. I really believe that. Jermaine Lole on the defensive line, 6 tackles for Jermaine Lole on Saturday. Andrew Makuba and Jade Barron in the secondary stepped up, made big plays. Okay. There are other leaders on this team. It's not just the quarterback, to Edmund's point. It's all of them that have to step up. Kelvin Banks and Jake Majors need to step up, right? Matthew Golden, DeAndre Moore, Gunnar Helm, Juan Davis. Those guys need to step up too. So it is a football team. It's not a one-person sport. Like, no offense to basketball, but you get LeBron James or Steph Curry on your team, and all of a sudden you're pretty damn good, right? Football takes a group. I feel like Texas has that. Now they need to go prove it and keep the eye on the prize, because everything that they thought they would have a chance at in the preseason, every single thing all of us thought they would have, they'll have. It's still within their reach. They just got to go grasp it.
Plenty more questions and comments and super chats, and we're gonna do some more of those, guys. Let's see here. Eric Mitchell, going back to what we were talking about at the beginning. If I would have saw that earlier, I would have put it up. Eric, my apologies, but thank you for your super chat. He says Georgia literally has players being arrested over assault on an unborn child and its mother.
Yeah, but you know, and their head coach, by the way, we mentioned all this. 12 arrests for Georgia since someone actually killed another human with a car. 12 arrests over DUI, or and then you add that, and then Kirby Smart last week pushed a Mississippi State player on the sideline. And for him to be so sanctimonious and act like we do it the right way at Georgia. Give me a break. They do it the right way, all right. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be Georgia in that regard. I'll just put it that way. If that was Texas, I'd be ashamed.
And Cody,
I mean, seriously.
Yep. Cody with super chat. Thank you, Cody. He says one of my biggest takeaways from the Georgia game, we missed Cedric Baxter.
I mean, look, yes, and we talked about it before the season, and I think it was. And here's the piece I want to say on that. I think when Baxter's injury happened, people are like, "Oh, well, how good was he as a freshman?" It's not about how good he was as a freshman. Think about the jump guys make from year 1 to year 2. I mean, think about Anthony Hill from year 1 to year 2. Think about Manny Muhammad. Think about the jumps these really good players make from year 1 to year 2. Think about what Colin Simmons. Now, watch Colin Simmons this year and think about what he'll be next year. Yeah, Cedric Baxter is a tremendous football player, and yeah, you missed that. He was the starting running back for a reason. He was a guy that in the building was being compared to Edgerrin James. So yeah, it's a big loss because he's an all-around player that came in and instantly picked up everything in the scheme, everything from a pass pro standpoint. You could split him out as you could run whatever with Cedric Baxter. You didn't have to take him off the field. Tremendous football player. So yeah, and I think that's what'll be interesting to watch. You know, and I'll say this: Trey Weiser, really good football player. I don't want to take Trey Weiser's really good football player, tough guy, man. I know he soared yesterday and sore today. Because Georgia brings the hat now. Those are physical, big, fast dudes. Trey Weiser did a very good job running the football against Georgia. And I thought the offensive line did some good things in the run game against Georgia. So I don't want to take away from Trey Weiser, he was very good. Cedric Baxter, he was a big-time player. I mean, do people think when he got hurt, it's like when Nick Saban went – I listened to him say at SEC Media Day, said, he was the best running back we played against last year. And Nick Saban didn't mean that Cedric Baxter was Ashton Jainty carrying a football. He just meant the guy was a tremendous all-around football player at the running back position. It's like, well, Nick Saban said he didn't mean that. Really? He played against them. Yeah, it's a big loss, but you know what? Texas still has everything in front of them, but they did miss him Saturday. That was the first game. There's times where you're going to miss that guy. You can't replace some of the things he did.
Drewski Lee here. So if he didn't have these problems with Michigan, he's talking about Quinn here, why you so quick to give up? Not quick to give up on him. I think Quinn should start against Vanderbilt. I do. So I'm not quick to give up on him, but one game doesn't equal two. He's had 2 bad games back to back where he's looked. Against Georgia, he looked incompetent. I gave him an F. I don't know what else to do. Okay. Against Georgia or against Oklahoma, Jerry gave him a D. Against Michigan, we gave him an A or an A+.
Yep.
But look, there are times when you have to figure out who he is. We're concerned that Michigan is the outlier and not the actual real Quinn Ewers. So, it's a fair question. I'm not giving up on him. I think he should start against Vanderbilt. So don't get me wrong here. I'm rooting for Quinn. I think he'll have a short leash or a shorter leash than we could have imagined 2 weeks ago. I think Jerry said it. I think Quinn Ewers, the first quarter and a half, 2 quarters he better play well or it's not going to be his team going forward. That's my opinion. I hope it is his team. So, because a good Quinn Ewers right now, I think, gives him a better opportunity. But it's got to be the good Quinn Ewers. It can't be the one that has been timid and coward in the face of a pass rush and caused his team to be behind the chains, not stepping up into the pocket, throwing off his back foot. Brian Irwin said it pretty well. That last play, you're playing for all the marbles that you have left, okay? And you throw a ball going off your back foot because you're scared to take one on the chin for your team on a pass rush and deliver a ball to Ryan Wingo when you had to have it. So your health is more important at that point than your team making a 4th down play. That don't resonate. Brian called it the epitome of what he sees as wrong right now. I agree with him.
We're going to talk some more Quinn Ewers in just a moment here, but first need to let everyone out there know about South Point Dodge. And Texas football fans, you can score an extra easy point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. They have over 600 vehicles in stock, and their award-winning sales staff doesn't do games or gimmicks. They just get straight to the point by getting you the best deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Go see them off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. And again, get to the point at South Point Dodge. They are Austin's automotive everything. If you're looking to sell your car, you can also get their best offer over the phone or online. Again, thank you, South Point Dodge. All right, guys, as I said, we're going to continue the Quinn Ewers talk here. We got a lot of super chats regarding that. And I'm going to start with this one here from Corey B. Corey says, I was quick to say pull Quinn, but it must be a lot of pressure to be starting quarterback at Texas. The expectations that come along with it, his rant.
I agree. It's a fishbowl, man.
It is.
There is no doubt about it, and it ain't for everybody. And so I have no problem agreeing that it's a lot of pressure. It really is. And you have to take that into consideration. At the same time, the play on the field is what matters. Everything else is noise. How you play on the field is what you will be remembered for. And if Quinn can handle that and know that, then that's all that really matters.
Yeah, and I'll say this: this quarterback position at these Blue Bloods even took on more when NIL became a part of it. Because now all the fans that buy the tickets and the ticket prices keep going up. No, they know figures how much guys are getting paid. So look, that adds more pressure to these guys. And I'm going to tell you, I've told the story before, but it takes Bobby's point. It takes a special guy to take the ball at these blue blood programs with national championship playoff expectations. I was at a high school years ago, and I'm not talking about anybody on the current Texas team. I was at a high school years ago as a guy that was being hyped up as a great quarterback. First time I went up to meet him, he gave me a dead fish handshake and looked at the ground when he introduced himself. I knew then, wasn't cut out for it. No chance.
All right, next super chat comes from Burt Reynolds, and he says, if you're Sark, where do you draw the line with Quinn?
Turning the ball over and taking bad sacks. He does that against Vanderbilt early. You got to make a move. They need to be able. He needs to operate the offense effectively and efficiently. The idea that he's not stepping into throws is just beyond me.
And then our next one comes from Edward. And Edward says, Sark is a guru, but when a play doesn't go as planned for the first read, Quinn panics. He has slow eyes, slow feet, and he's wasting plays. I want to see two second and third read throws versus Vandy. I don't care about first read throws.
You better care about first read throws because that's how they've moved the ball. To your point. You want to see second and third read throws. There haven't been many. Not enough, not nearly enough. Look, I think that, look, we all, Edward, I think we all feel some of that. Let's see how it works out. I think that we can be quick to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like I said earlier, I would still start Quinn on Saturday. So I'm not ready to go there yet. I am cognizant of the fact, though, and aware of the fact of how he's played the last two games. And I think that Sark is as well. Sark's not he made a move in the second quarter against Georgia.
Do you think he wanted to pull a 3-year starting quarterback in the second quarter against Georgia?
No chance.
Hey, by the way, somebody said something great in the chat. They said you don't get third progression throws against Georgia. I agree with that. It's got to be first or second. And that's why you have to move quickly. You're not going to get third read throws very often against Georgia. Andrew, great point. Totally agree. Not against them. Against teams that can't get to you, yes. But not at that level game, man. That's why they have those level defensive play. It's just not going to happen very often against a team that talented.
Quinn's not going to do it because Quinn doesn't. No offense, but Quinn doesn't do it. Brock Purdy, Jerry, can. That's his superpower, right? That's not Quinn's superpower.
Yeah, I don't know on the college level.
On the college, I'm just telling you, I agree. But that is some people's superpower, is the ability to process quickly. I don't know that that's Quinn's superpower as a quarterback. I haven't seen that. I'll put it that way.
And then T-Ball75 wants to know if y'all think it's possible that Quinn has reached his ceiling as a quarterback.
No, he's still a young guy. Look, he's still extraordinarily talented. Extraordinarily talented. He has to get over this mental barrier of what he's doing when he bails out of the pocket or doesn't step up. It's mental, in my opinion. Throwing off your back foot is mental. Not being willing to take a face mask on the chin is mental. So I don't think he's reached his ceiling at all. Not even close to it.
I will say this. I don't think he's reached his ceiling. But if his feet don't start moving quicker with purpose, he may have. Because what he saw Saturday is every week at the next level. Every week. No weeks off. Feet got to move quick. Doesn't matter what your eyes see.
And then our next one, guys, comes from Major Alexander. And Major says, if he struggles in the first quarter Saturday, you have to move past him. Talking about Quinn.
I think it's going to be the first quarter and a half. But I hear you. And it also depends on the score of the game. Look, Texas was out of this game 23-0.
Yep. By the way, injury. Brendan Bowersox asked, can we talk injuries with Wisner and Makuba? Sark's going to meet with the media at 11:30. I think we'll get updates then. Initial reports on Makuba was more of a bruise. But what we need to wait for Sark. Obviously, Wisner got hit on the shoulder. He took a lot of hits. You're going to take hits against that Georgia defense. It's going to be physical. You're going to be sore. So Sark will meet with the media here coming up in like 2 hours.
I bet we don't get much on Wisner.
Yeah.
But we might get some on Makuba. That's just my guess. Remember, though, the first official injury report won't come out till Wednesday at 7 p.m. when they have to file it with the SEC office.
And Burt Reynolds says people aren't talking enough about Sark not adjusting to the pressure. Help your quarterback, offensive line out. Not enough run game and RPO to combat the pass rush in the first half.
I would agree with that. And I think Brian mentioned that when he was discussing. He said, we got to go out and start the bar fight earlier, was Brian's comment, right? We need to start the bar fight earlier, get to the run game earlier, because we have a good run game. And that can take some of the pressure off and allow play action to work better. Burrell's not wrong here. Everybody is involved in that game deserves part of the blame. And we're talking mostly about the quarterback because, frankly, quarterback's the most important position in football. But everybody deserves some part of that game plan and execution of it.
Hey, by the way, one thing we haven't talked about, because we're talking about Quinn and the losses, nothing motivates the staff more from a recruiting perspective and every other perspective than Saturday night. By the way,
if they're competitive, I agree with that. They'll show their competitive nature.
And in recruiting too, because the reality is, those guys sit in an office and they watch the tape together, and say that being in this business long enough, I know, hey, we need a couple more like that.
Yeah, yes, I agree. And you're talking about the Georgia front, by the way. Just to be clear.
And that's nothing disparaging on the Texas players. I'm just saying, you got to keep building. Got to keep building. Got to keep building. You hope Colin Simmons looks like Jalen Walker as a junior, because Jalen Walker didn't look like that as a freshman. You hope that's the progression, and then you add to it, because the reality is, how many people in the chat and Bobby in text have brought up, hey, 10 looked good. Who's 10? Oh, that was Damon Wilson from Venice. Saw him in high school. He was a beast. Who's 13? Who's 5? Blah, blah. You just go through all the numbers. That's the way it needs to be with Texas when somebody plays Texas. Man, who was this guy, this guy, this guy? Golly, man. Everybody they brought in was hitting us
hard.
Have
3 top 50 recruits in the country on their defense. Hill, Muhammad, and Simmons, maybe Alfred Collins.
Alfred Collins was fringe.
Yeah, so maybe 4. What does Georgia have? 7 or 8?
At least. Starters, 7 or 8, probably that played 12, 13, 14.
Malachi Starks,
5-star. Smell Mondon didn't play, 5-star. Jalen Walker, 5-star. Michael Williams, 5-star. Christian Miller, high 4-star. All those D linemen, high 4 stars. Raylan Wilson, 5-star line. I mean, I can keep going.
Yeah, that's my point. They had all
KJ Bolden, 5-star freshman safety.
They weren't just top 250 players in the country. They were top 50 players in the country.
Yeah.
Rhett wants to know, did Oklahoma and Georgia defensively throw some looks that Quinn's never seen before? Or is it more likely cold feet after an injury?
OU definitely did. I don't know that Georgia threw a bunch at them. They threw some at the offensive line. OU played a little 3-high safety at times. That may have shocked Quinn a little bit because they hadn't really done that much. I don't think it's cold feet after an injury either. If that were the case, it would have been just Oklahoma. And
that, by the way, that was 2 different. That was a lot of different looks from 2 different. Venables is really. I mean, I know people are having fun with it, and he's really good defensive coordinator now and schemer. And their linebacker. I mean, they're really good in coverage. So there was that. Georgia, presented a different size-speed combination in the front seven. Oklahoma has guys that can rush the passer, but it's that combination. So a lot of times Georgia was dropping 7 or 8. They didn't bring the house a lot. They had a lot of delayed blitzes, but they had guys that could get there.
And our next super chat comes from Longhorn Frenzy. Thank you, Longhorn Frenzy. As always, Texas needs to have a short memory and come out and play with violence against Vandy. Beat the dog hell out of them.
Yes. And it needs to be a complete victory. We're spending so much time talking about quarterback. Needs to be across the whole deal. That's my opinion.
I want to let me hit on a couple things real quick, Blake. Somebody asked about Joseph Mbaktu's OV. OV went great. Everything's going great. Look, he was at USC. He's going to go to Michigan. He's committed to Florida. Georgia's in the picture. I mean, we'll see what happens. But this has all come fast at him, really fast at him. And NIL is part of that recruitment. Somebody asked about Justice Terry. I mean, look, I think Texas did well with Justice Terry. You'll see, for me, that recruitment, because it was Georgia and Auburn top 2 headed in this visit. If you just follow recruiting and you're real about recruiting, a lot of that's going to depend on where Kirby – does Kirby feel like he has to have Justice Terry? Because Georgia hasn't lost many of those guys. I hate to say it, but that's what that's coming down to. He just got Elijah Griffin. Does he feel like he has to have Justice Terry? We'll find out.
And Freelance Society says, I went to all of Texas' big home games. LSU, Alabama, TCU when they were ranked number 4, and now Georgia. It's crazy that Texas hasn't won a big game at home in a while.
Probably true there. I mean, I guess you don't count Texas Tech as a big home game last year, or
Kansas State was, but it wasn't national big game.
Yeah.
But it was big. I mean, they were all big last year because you were in the playoff hunt.
Yeah.
I mean, but I get what he's saying too. But there's been a lot of big games. I think because the first year in the SEC and Texas was ranked 1 and had been in a college football playoff, the build up to this may have been even more than anyone ever. And Georgia is the best program in college football, or the winningest program in college football the last 3 years coming in. It was kind of like a clash in Texas' first year in the SEC. So I get what he's saying.
All right, guys, a lot more super chats to get to, so we're just going to jump right into these. James Williams says, this is a wake-up call for the O-line, but I'm happy it happened now, so they are going to fix the mistakes and be ready for that Texas A&M defensive line. Hook 'em.
A&M's defensive line is really good. I think their linebackers may be a little weaker than what you may think. Weaker may not be the right word. But I do think that Arkansas has a good front and that Kentucky has a good front. So I think the O-line will be good the rest of the way. I really do. Some teams may give them problems, but they'll be minimal.
And then Josh with the super chat. Bear with me, guys, because it's a 2-parter here. And thank you, Josh. He says, this stretch of games is a gut check. If this team is truly a contender, this is where our team will either come together or crumble.
100%. I mean, this is culture game Saturday against an opponent that's no longer a pushover. An opponent that believes they can beat Texas because they beat Alabama. And to a smaller extent, they beat Virginia Tech to start the season, because without that win, I'm not sure the rest of this happens for them. They have a playmaker at quarterback. Texas is a more talented team. Texas is a better team, but you got to come out and execute and play at a high level. But to his point, totally agree. This week, then you get a breather off week, and then Florida, who's playing better, comes to town. Then you go to Arkansas. Arkansas has an off week before that game, and it's Super Bowl Saturday in Fayetteville for that one. And then you have Kentucky, who's not playing good football, offensively not good, and then you have at A&M. Because here's the reality of Saturday: your margin for error is now razor thin to make the playoff. And I guarantee you, the scenario you don't want is to be 9-2, having to go into A&M to win to get in the playoff, and lose. You don't, and they go to the playoff. It's not the scenario.
I love the term culture game, Jerry. Good stuff.
Yep.
And our next super chat comes from Travis. Thank you, Travis. He says, how much do Florida teams being trash, how much does that have to do with Georgia's success? Till now, Georgia was a perennial underachiever, and Kirby's a dirty coach who can't fail. How do we make Florida stop the bleeding?
That's a great point, because living down there, doing this nationally, great super chat. Here's the thing. Miami being in flux for years. Florida, same after Urban left. Florida State, same after Jimbo burned that thing down. Florida was there for the taking. And first it was Nick Saban. If you think about the guys they got from South Florida, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, I can keep going on. Then Kirby gets to Georgia, same thing, along with owning his state, which is unbelievable. Atlanta area is the most talented area in the country in recruiting. But then he goes down Tyson Campbell's. I mean, you can just keep going down the list, because Florida State, and Miami all at the same time were going through these up and downs with more downs and unknowns. Man, that Nick Saban took full advantage. And then Kirby Smart has continued that. And there's a lot of truth in what he said. And Texas is doing well in Florida too. I mean, Cedric Baxter, a one-time FSU commit, Jarrett Gibson, a one-time Florida commit, Dia Bell, 5-star quarterback in 2026. So Florida, Texas is in there in Florida for the same reason, because you can go in there and win battles right now. If Florida State, and Miami were on top of college football like they were in the 90s, it was very tough to go in and get anybody.
All right, our next one comes from J.S. Hooper. Thank you, J.S. or J's. Do you think that the breaking point for Sark will be Quinn's lack of toughness, courage, and leadership? I think he'll be disgusted by that in film review. He might go with Arch just to prove a point.
I don't think so. I think he said it in the post game. This is Quinn's team. Okay. And that's where it's going to go. Now, if he has, that's why we said short leash against Vanderbilt. Quinn better come out playing with his pants on fire, because anything less than that, and I don't know if that's good for Quinn Ewers' future at Texas. It's time. It's put up or shut up time. Love Quinn to death as what he's done at Texas, but you're only as good as your last game, and the last two have been stinkers.
And on a very related note, Trace Little with the super chat, did we get lucky with Oklahoma being trash? Quinn looked scared in both of these games. If Arch is right behind him, don't you start him? Quinn has too many ups and downs. It is scared not to know what Quinn you will get.
I agree. That you got to be able to count on your quarterback, guys. 2 games in a row, Quinn has not looked good. That's the whole issue. He's just not looked good. And so I can't to tell you that, we know he's going to come back and be great against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt won't present as many problems, we don't think, as Venables or Kirby Smart. But don't forget, Clark Lee is a defensive coordinator. He was the defensive coordinator for Notre Dame for Brian Kelly and got them to the playoffs. So he's a good coach too. He doesn't have the personnel the other two have, probably.
Yep.
All right. And then our next super chat comes from James Williams. James says, in all my years, I have never seen a flag picked up for defensive pass interference. Did y'all ever find out why they ended up changing the call?
Well, because they knew they got it wrong, and they had the nuts to change the call. But without the incident, the ball would have been snapped, and they would have never had a chance to huddle up and make the right call. They made the right call, and I do think and that has nothing to do with who we cover. I even think other people have said that they made the right call. It's just how it all went down. Somebody's asked about Javion Hilson. We'll see. Michael Terry. We'll see. Texas leads for both. We'll see how long their timeline is. I don't expect either one to go to December.
All right, and a lot more super chats, guys. We're going to continue to get through these as quickly as we can for y'all. Dax Cam, thank you, Dax. Horns had some drops, too, that didn't help Quinn's confidence. Trey dropped a couple, could have been touchdown passes that would have created so much momentum.
Yeah, true. Blue dropped one in the flat. True. Part of the game. The Trey one would have been a touchdown or big gainer at a time when Texas needed momentum. That was a significant play, not a win or lose play. Trey Wise was a tough kid, had a really solid game, but that was a tough timing because that could have been a touchdown or ran it inside the 5 and set up a potential touchdown.
And then Jeff Carey with the pair of supers. So I'm going to put these together here. Thank you, Jeff. He says, should Sark be scripting 30 to 40 plays? Does he adjust? What if the script isn't working? And then Jeff also said, I wonder what Sark's record is versus top 10 teams.
You've got to you're on the what's the record versus the top 10 teams. Look, Blake, if you don't mind, I don't know that offhand. But what I would say is he said he came off his script.
Yeah.
In fact, when it didn't go his direction. I think that the issue is when the script isn't working. Sark has been throwing to set up the run now for 2 years. So, frankly, the MO is out. People know that. And so they're defending it better. I think he has to, I think Brian Irwin's onto something. I really do. When he said you have to take the bar fight to Sark or to the team earlier, you have to run the ball earlier. I agree with him. That's the adjustment in the script that needs to be made somehow.
And Jeff, I'll continue to look and see if I can't find your answer for you. Edward with another one. Thank you again, Edward. With the talent we've had, I feel like we've been in arm's reach of being the next college football dynasty, but just can't seem to get over that hump. What's missing? How's we?
Takes time to build. I'm not sure there is going to be any more college football dynasties. I don't see great teams. I'm not sure we're going to see great teams anymore because of the portal. And it's going to be harder than ever to win a national championship. I think the days of dynasties are over, quite frankly. When 12-team playoff now, it goes to 16. If anybody wins 3 national titles in a row or 3 in 4 years in this playoff format, then I'll come on here and do a solo video and say I was wrong. I don't think we're going to see it anymore. But you got to keep building. Got to keep building. Got to keep adding talent to the roster. You got to continue to make really good, strong evaluations through the portal. And the biggest thing you got to do is continue to build a team and not just try to collect talent, because things can fall off when you do that. And I think Sark's done a really good job of that, and they'll continue to build.
All right, then our next one here from Jarrett. He says, I thought Jalen Gilbo was a step behind and tackling as a whole was below par for this defense. Do y'all agree? Hook 'em.
They put him in some conflict situations. They absolutely did. The other thing they did that I thought was interesting, Jerry, is they faked early in that game. If you recall, they faked the quick missile screen to the outside, okay, and ran the tight end up the line where Makubo had 2 guys he was guarding because Manny Muhammad and Jalen Gilbo broke on the screen. And that put him into conflict early and had them on their heels a little bit. That was a really smart play call from Mike Bobo and the Georgia staff because it kept that in their mind. They couldn't commit too soon to that screen or else they'd get beat over the top. It was the first big play for Georgia outside of a run play.
And then Josh with the super chat. Thank you, Josh. He says, in my opinion, this is the inflection point. I believe this team is great. We have real winners on this team. Sorrell, Hill, etc. It's bounce back season.
Yes.
So. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, culture game Saturday in Nashville against a team that believes they can beat Texas with a really good quarterback. They shouldn't beat Texas, but they shouldn't have beat Alabama either.
17.5-point favorites.
And then Kabir, thank you. He says, what happens if players start to question which quarterback gives the best chance to win? Could culture go out the door? It's a double-edged sword with a great backup.
Rod talks about this as well as anybody because he lived it with Chris Sims and Major Applewhite. Some people in the locker room want one guy, the other one wants someone else. Right now, everybody wants Quinn still, is my understanding. Okay, so there's no within the team, that's not a thing. I think some fans are ready to go the other direction, but not within the team. So that's why it's so incumbent on Quinn Ewers to have a really good game against Vandy. That's the answer to that question. Got to have a good game. No more mediocre. Mediocre to subpar.
What happened Saturday can't happen against Vanderbilt.
No way.
If Sark has to pull Quinn in the Vanderbilt game, things change.
Done. I agree.
And Jeff, to answer your question, I think I found the answer. Sark is 5-15 overall as a head coach
In his career. Find it Texas. Let's find it. Okay. Yeah.
Versus top 10. That's as a career, but I'll see if I can't find the Texas one as well. All right. And then Jeff also has another super chat. He says that Dr. Pepper commercial with Quinn didn't age well.
Jeff, now you made me want to go get a zero sugar Dr. Pepper.
Oh, man. And then Major Alexander, don't ask to be paid if you fold under pressure.
NIL.
Yeah. All right, guys, moving on here. Fred, 90s Caddy Johnson, thank you for the super chat. He says, you're never going to be the best until you beat the best. Let's start getting a footprint in Georgia. Hook 'em.
No doubt. Look, I mean, Texas won at Bama last year. They made it to the playoff. They won at Michigan. No matter what Michigan offensively is, they're not good. We talked about Texas hadn't played a good offense all season until Saturday. But continue to building. There's bumps in the road. You got to continue to keep building. That's the key for me. And this is why Texas is in good hands. They're making really good decisions in recruiting. And Texas is fine as long as you win the culture game Saturday. Keep on your path. No margin, 1 game margin for error left to make the playoff.
And then Jays Hooper, thank you again for another super chat. He says, I think his teammates will go to Sark and say something. They're putting their body on the line. The quarterback needs to show that type of toughness and commitment to his teammates. Everyone is accountable.
I agree. I mean, look, we're in this. This is do or die for the Texas season as well as the quarterback position. That's what it hinges on it. That's why Jerry called it a culture game. It is. The culture demands a meritocracy. And if Quinn's not at the top of the heap at quarterback, by the way, Arch Manning didn't exactly light it on fire on Saturday.
Tough
So
spot
this
to
isn't me advocating for Arch over anything. People are missing. Oh well, if you're saying Quinn needs to be benched, then you must think Arch is going to do better. That's not necessarily the case. You got to give somebody else a chance, though, if you're not playing winning football.
Yeah. All right. And then our next one here, it comes from Eric. And Eric says, what's up with so many experienced quarterbacks in college football seemingly regressing this season? Is it parity schemes, coaching, one-read quarterbacks? What's the deal?
Who is regressing? I mean, who are we thinking is regressing?
Well, I mean, Carson Beck's not playing at a high level. He's a turnover machine. If he has another 3 interception game, Georgia could lose. I mean, they can lose another game if he doesn't start playing better. Now, Georgia drop passes for the Georgia fans in there, yes. And 3 on third downs, else Georgia would have looked up even better offensively. But Carson Beck's not playing at a high level. He's not playing championship quarterback football for Georgia right now. Jackson Dart, Nico, had a ton of expectations on him. I mean, he's going around a little bit. Dylan Gabriel playing well. Good scheme. Oregon's number 1. Different pressure now.
All right. And then our next one from It's 420 Somewhere. Thank you. As always, Georgia played the best game defensively in the past year, while Texas played maybe their worst game offensively, and we still had a chance. Let's walk away from the ledge and take a breath.
That's what I said. I mean, look, that game was winnable. It was winnable. Even after they got out, I mean, Georgia didn't do anything that, other than the defensive front, did anything really scare you about what Georgia did? Not really. And I think their quarterback made that game winnable for Texas, but Texas just didn't get enough out of its offense. So, I mean, this is a top 5 team. You lost. Now, you can't be beat twice by one loss. That's when we'll really find out about this team. Because Jerry mentioned it earlier, they've been hit with adversity now. How do you react? That's why this week is so big for Texas football and the program.
All right, and then it's Lep says, does Ewers have the yips? He reverted back to old habits with his mechanics. Texas is too talented to wait for Ewers to figure it out.
I don't think that. I think his feet better start moving.
I think he has the yips.
I just think it's, it's reacting slow with your feet makes everything else react slow, because what you're seeing with your eyes, you are 2 full split seconds behind if your feet are not reacting and moving with some purpose. And that's my take. It does not matter what you see with your eyes. Nothing else matters. If your feet are late reacting, then you're not going to be in a position to be successful.
His feet don't have anything to do with willingness to take a hit. Step in and throw. That would be my counter to that. It's not the yips, because I think there is some of that.
By the way, Brian Berg asked, any info on the basketball scrimmage? I'm going to write something on Texas football about that. Texas beat TCU 80-52. TCU not quite as good as the last 2 or 3 teams, but Texas played really well. They have Colorado in Austin Saturday, second scrimmage before the season opener, 80-52. Texas had 5 guys in double figures. I'll have more on that on TexasFootball.com. I'm going to write about that after this.
There you go. All right, Bobby, before we get to our last couple of super chats and questions here on this extra long episode of Coffee and Football, can you let everyone know about John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry we had so much to get to today, but a lot of questions coming in. As a proud UT alum, John has served more than 15 years served 15 years as a Dallas, Texas Exes board member, now helping lead the build-out of the Collin County, Texas Exes chapter. John wants to remind everyone that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so he encourages everyone to pay attention to your health while also paying attention to the financial tools necessary to protect yourself and your loved ones. John's offering all OTF fans a free 90-minute consultation to explore how you may be able to best protect yourself and your loved ones from the bad things that happen to good people. Either call John and the Longhorn Wealth team at 972-707-4900 or go online at www.longhornwealth.net to schedule your free private consultation today. Hook 'em from John Donovan and the folks over at Longhorn Wealth Management.
Thank you, Bobby. And Ted M. Thank you, Ted. He says Team Arch here in Pennsylvania.
Don't do this. Replace the word Arch with Texas.
There you go. I like it. And then we got one here from Clint, guys. And Clint says Texas deserves more credit from the fight they showed in the second half. Also, if we do what we should, I'd rather beat Georgia in the championship game than this past Saturday.
Yeah, look, I think I will say this. Defense showed a ton of fight in the first half, because that thing could have gone really bad. I mean, Georgia helped dropping a couple of third down passes. Beck still was not good. Texas defense took advantage of another quarterback that was not playing good, on just like Quinn wasn't. But the Texas defense bowed up and kept that thing from being 37-0 at halftime. I mean, that could have been ugly at halftime. And then the Texas offense came back and showed a lot of fight. So I totally agree with what his point is. And I think they're going to take that fight to Vanderbilt Saturday.
All right, guys, then we're going to end on this one here from Victor. And he says, will y'all be in Nashville? I hope to see y'all there.
I will definitely be here. I'm working out the final plans. I'm waiting on a permit potentially for a one spot, or we will do it at a local restaurant that's nearby the stadium. I'm waiting to get that tailgating info out to everyone when I get final okay.
And
by the way, I will not be in Nashville. I am hitting the road Wednesday. I will be out seeing prospects for 2 straight weeks, guys. So we'll be having a reporting on a lot of stuff here on TexasFootball.com. I'm hitting the road for 2 weeks to take advantage of Texas being on the road, then the off week. But when Texas travels, I travel. So we're going to go have some fun on the road and see a lot of kids.
And I also want to add, guys, that if you're not making the trip up to Nashville this Friday, you can come check out the orange and white baseball game. It will be Friday. I think the gates open at 5:45. They're going to have autograph signing session. If you have kids, they can run the bases. But the game should start, I think, at 7 o'clock. I will double check on that. So this Friday, October 25th. And
hey, they need to make that into a real shirt for this game. That's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I definitely like it. But yeah, I'll be there. So head on out to that as well. And we had one more super chat roll in. So we are going to finish with it. It's from Slick Rick. And Slick Rick says, if Quinn has 2 turnovers Saturday, do you pull him?
In the first quarter, first half? Yes. Sorry.
Oh, same answer, right?
Yeah, you have to.
All right, guys. Well, I didn't mean to do that. That's going to do it for this edition of Coffee and Football presented by John Donovan and Longhorn Wealth Management Group. We want to thank them, along with Carrot Concierge and South Point Dodge, all for sponsoring today's show. Thank you for tuning in. The great questions, all the super chats. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow. But, Bobby, what do you have later today?
Well, Sark talks at 11:30. And then we have the winning drive, Rod and CJ. And Coach Shipley will hear for the first time from Coach Shipley on his thoughts of the games. And then Jerry and I are back to answer questions on Talking Ball. Going to probably focus a little on recruiting tonight as we get more and more information on that. Also waiting on word on the health of several players coming out of the Georgia game. Hopefully Steve Sarkisian gives us that intel later today, or at least clues us in a little.
And also, don't forget to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. Use promo code OTFOG to sign up. You'll get a full year for $39.95 using that. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell so you're notified anytime we go live or post content. That way you don't miss anything. We went over 62,000 subscribers, so we can't thank you enough for your support. We definitely appreciate it. And we will be back same time, same place tomorrow morning. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Let's get after it.